Madam Chairman, we have witnessed a turbulent few months for local government. As well as my responsibilities as leader of Surrey County Council, members will know that I represent the Conservative group at the Local Government Association. I've spent many months working behind the scenes to try and make the government really understand the demand-led pressures faced by Surrey and local government as a whole. Along with the chairman of the Local Government Association, Lord Porter, I've had meetings with the Secretary of State for Communities and Local Government and the Chief Secretary to the Treasury to go through the issues in detail with them. Members will know that I take my duties to represent the vulnerable in our community very seriously. With the number of older people in our county set to increase by 20,000 by 2020, the cost of providing adult social care services are increasing by a staggering £20 million every year. But it is our responsibility to make sure that they are provided for. I've lobbied hard for councils with adult social care responsibilities to be able to raise council tax to deal with this specific pressure. And I was pleased when the Chancellor announced in November's autumn statement that an extra 2% could be raised. The measure meant that we would be able to raise an extra £12 million to help tackle the growing demand in adult social care services. But this would only help to reduce the gap. It would not close it. It was clear that more support was necessary for those who needed it most, many who have served their country and look to us for help now. Madam Chairman, it therefore came as a complete shock when ministers announced last December, just days before Christmas, that they planned to dramatically slash Surrey's funding by £50 million in 1 year. We had planned carefully to manage a cut in our grant, but this was nearly double the amount that the government officials had led us to expect. My concern for the services we provide to the most vulnerable people in our county dominated my thoughts throughout Christmas and the New Year. The support for adult social care we could deliver through the extra 2% on council tax risked being completely wiped out. And so I have spent the last 4 weeks impressing on government the need to recognise the unprecedented demand being placed on councils such as Surrey. And I am grateful for the support we've had from Surrey MPs in making our case. Along with the increased demand for adult social care services, Surrey is required to provide more than 11,000 extra school places over the next 5 years, despite funding falling short by around £30 million every year. Madam Chairman, I'm pleased to inform members that ministers have listened to my concerns. The Secretary of State told me yesterday and then announced in Parliament that £300 million of transitional funding would be provided to councils over the next 2 years. That's £150 million each year to deal with the impact of the reduction of government grant. I can tell members that at 6:30 yesterday evening, we received confirmation that Surrey County Council would benefit from a transitional grant of £11.9 million this year and £12.2 million in 2017 and 18. In addition, the Secretary of State has agreed to a package of measures that will help councils to continue to provide the services residents depend upon year after year. Firstly, the government has announced that no council will face the prospect of receiving a negative grant over the next 2 years. Secondly, I've been pushing hard for government to recognise the need to improve its funding formula for local government. Its current method does not recognise the changing basis of needs and the real cost of delivering services in different parts of the country. I am therefore very pleased that the Government has agreed to launch a fair funding review to carefully consider the challenges different councils face when providing services. For Surrey, the system needs to better reflect the demands we face from demographic factors, as well as the extremely high cost of providing services in the southeast of England. I'm sure that our borough and district colleagues will also welcome further concession by the Government. A concession will allow them to increase council tax by at least £5 per Band D property. In addition, councils will also be able to increase planning fees in line with inflation, relieving the unnecessary pressure on other budgets. Finally, councils will now have until October to decide whether they accept the Government's offer of a 4-year deal. Madam Chairman, I appreciate the willingness of ministers to listen to our case and to recognise the extent of the pressures we are facing. The good news is that the offer to local government as a whole, and Surrey specifically, has improved. While the transition grant for Surrey is welcome, it is not as much as we'd hoped for and will still place strain on our services. The budget we are proposing includes recommendation that the council tax be increased by 3.99%. On this basis, we can go forward and set an overall budget envelope today, providing services with certainty over their cash limits as set out in the papers at Appendix 4. It will also allow us to begin work on a new £30 million public value transformation programme. A programme that will continue the hard work we've already started to provide true value for money to our residents. We know tough choices still need to be made. Savings will still have to be found. Innovations will still continue to be required. We share the Government's commitment to eliminating the national deficit. In fact, no part of the public sector has done more to play its part in this cause than local government. We have always accepted that our grant from government would be cut over 4 years. We've always accepted we must do more for less. We've always accepted the need to provide real value for money to Surrey residents and businesses. Madam Chairman, Surrey County Council should be proud of finding savings of more than £350 million since 2010. And that it intends to save another £350 million by 2020. These are challenging times for local government, and it's vital government recognises the real pressures we are facing. I pledge again my commitment to always do what's right for Surrey. I will continue to put the case for Surrey to receive a fairer deal. I will be tenacious in demanding that Surrey gets a fair allocation from the Better Care Fund and also from the business rate retention. The last month has shown me that through working with this Conservative government and through our Surrey MPs, we are able to bring about real improvement in policy. Ministers have listened to our concerns, but there is still much for us to do. I call on members to agree this budget today so we can continue to work to secure a good deal for the county. Before I conclude, Madam Chairman and members, may I pay a personal thanks to the Director of Finance, Sheila Little, and her team for their excellent work in ensuring that everything was done to pull this budget proposal together. Finally, Madam Chairman and members, the recommendations are laid out in the report on page 16 and 17, all 21 of them. I remind members that the key factor in these recommendations is the budget envelope is based on a council tax increase of 3.99%, reflecting a gross budget of £1,681 million. Madam Chairman and members, I commend this budget to the Council for agreement. Thank you.